Thank you, everybody, for coming to the Aaron Torres Podcast YouTube page. If you could do me a quick favor, see that little subscribe button at the bottom of your screen? Go ahead, click that subscribe button. Really does help our channel grow, our audience grow, and I really do appreciate it more than you know. So click that subscribe button. Appreciate your support. Now, here's the video that you came here for. There wasn't a lot of real, newsworthy stuff out of the world of college football in probably the last 24 hours or so. But I did see something that caught my attention. Lane Kiffin just gushing over one young college football head coach. Okay, so Ole Miss is getting set to play Tulane this weekend. Tulane in the preseason was the buzzy, trendy G5 team, right? Last year, year one for John Sumrall, their head coach. They win 9 games. He came from Troy, had success at Troy previously. And so I only bring it up because they were the buzzy team. They were the trendy team. But you get into a season, you just don't know what's going to happen, especially, by the way, when you lose your quarterback to the highest bidder in Duke. That is right. Tulane lost their star quarterback, Darian Mensah, to Duke in the offseason. The reports are Mensah's making like $4 million a year at Duke, which, listen, it's not my money. Good for the kid, good for his family. I hope it changes his life forever. But the question was, how is Tulane going to be going forward? Well, I bring it up because Tulane, Darian Mensah with Duke went to Tulane last week. Final score 34-27. Tulane gets the win. How about this? Tulane was up 24-3 at one point. So basically, Duke had to rally just to make it respectable. But Tulane gets the big win last week. This week, they're going to Ole Miss. And in the lead up to the Ole Miss game, Tulane is 3-0, and Lane Kiffin is not hiding what a challenge this game will be for the Rebels in Oxford. But more specifically, he's not hiding how good he thinks the coach of Tulane is. Again, John Sumrall, a young guy in his early 40s who is the head coach at Tulane. Lane Kiffin was asked about John Sumrall in the lead up to the game. This was on Wednesday on the SEC Coaches Conference. Producer Matt, what did Lane Kiffin have to say about John Sumrall? He said, "It's funny you bring up John Sumrall. I told my staff yesterday, I said, I feel like I'm going to be in head coaches meetings in the conference. I think our first one is in January with Coach Sumrall. So it's funny you bring that up." Lane Kiffin basically insinuating this guy that I see on the other sidelines right there, John Sumrall, he is going to be in the SEC. He's going to be in the SEC soon. I am going to be battling wits with him. He is a rising star in the coaching space. Well, I bring it up because I think it's a great topic and I think it's a great conversation. Is it going to happen? And then more importantly, what school might be lucky enough to get the next rising star in college coaching? First of all, let me say this. I agree 100% with Lane Kiffin. I think John Sumrall is phenomenal. Okay. And what I really respect about him, first of all, total grinder, played at Kentucky, back in the early 2000s, was a GA at Kentucky, went to San Diego, Tulane, Troy, and Ole Miss before he ended up back at Kentucky as an assistant coach. This isn't a silver spoon guy. He has earned his reps. He earned his stripes, whatever. Didn't play at Ohio State, didn't play at Michigan, didn't get to just be a grad assistant, at some power and kind of work under some legendary head coach, whatever. I mean, he has grinded his way. But I've just been so impressed what he has done since he took over as a head coach, right? I mentioned it a minute ago, but year one at Troy, 12-2 as a first-year head coach with the Troy Trojans. Oh, by the way, that was a year where I believe that they won the conference championship. Year two, how do you follow it up? 11-2 with Troy in the 2023 season. And I think what's interesting is this. I think at that point, there was a lot of conversation of, will he be a Power 4, then the Power 5 head coach? Like how soon is this guy just going to get to the SEC or the ACC or whatever? Made a little bit of a surprising move to actually go to Tulane last year. I think some people question it. Stay at Troy, keep building, keep having success. You're going to get your opportunity. Instead, he goes to Tulane, and in year one, wins 9 games, plays for an AAC title. They actually started 9-2. The only 2 losses were to Oklahoma and Kansas State, both ranked teams, and they easily could have beat Kansas State, by the way. And so I just bring it up because immediate success, but I would say in some ways, I actually think that this year may be his most impressive coaching job yet, and let me explain why. It's because of the fact that, listen, being at a G5 school, even being at some Power 4 schools, you know that going into an offseason, you are going to lose some of your best players. It is the new reality. It stinks. We all wish it was different. I know they canceled the spring portal, but it doesn't change the fact that if you are a G5 head coach, you're just going to lose really good players. And so coming into this year, I think there was this belief Tulane's going to take a step back because they lost Darian Mensah to Duke. I mean, listen, I'll say this. I've heard some people use Tulane as an example of why the G5 shouldn't even have a spot in the college football playoff, because it's like, even if you put together a good team, even if you out-evaluate guys, you can't keep them year over year over year. Well, what does John Sumrall do? Not only is he 3-0, but I thought a very savvy move. Jake Retzlaff ends up in the portal. I know it was a little fluky late in the summer. Jake Retzlaff was the BYU quarterback who was under investigation. But remember, the only thing that ended up happening was that he broke BYU's honor code violation, which, to the BYU fans listening, I respect the honor code. This isn't something sarcastic, but he didn't do anything wrong in the eyes of basically every other college in America. And so he becomes available. Tulane goes and gets him, and he is playing like a dude who won 11 games in the G5 in the Big 12 last year. And so this is what great coaches do. They adapt, they adjust, they figure stuff out. They don't make excuses. And now this Tulane team might actually be better than last year's Tulane team. Now, in terms of where he could end up in the SEC, I don't need a fight between fan bases in the chat right now. But this guy, to Lane Kiffin's point, is absolutely going to be coveted this season when the season is over. And I think the difference between this year and last year, I think some big jobs are going to open up. I mean, if you remember back to last year, no SEC jobs opened up. Keep in mind also UCF and North Carolina, who actually play this weekend, they opened up, but they hired guys from outside of college football. Bill Belichick and Scott Frost, neither of them was in college football. So I just think it's going to be a much more active coaching cycle this year. And I think we saw it this week with Virginia Tech and UCLA both opening. And so the question becomes, what SEC jobs could become open and what schools want them? Well, I can name two right off the top of my head that I know would be desperate for him if they had the opportunity to hire him. One is producer Matt's Auburn Tigers. Auburn, listen, we'll see what happens. I am a believer in Hugh Freeze and what Hugh Freeze has done so far this season at Auburn, and I think they're going to be okay. I don't think Hugh Freeze is going to lose his job, okay? I actually don't think it's going to happen at all. But if they did, remember, John Sumrall's from the state of Alabama, and in my opinion, I think he'd have to be candidate number one, phone call number one. You know, if Alabama actually fires DeBoer, I don't even know how to process that. But the other school, and we already have some comments in the chat, I think makes a ton of sense. It says alma mater, the University of Kentucky. And one, I listen, every time I talk about this, I know that Kentucky fans are going to say the same thing. Torres, Mark Stoops' buyout. Torres, Mark Stoops, it ain't happening. All I'll do is I will go back and say what I have said consistently about Mark Stoops. If he goes 3-9 this year, if he goes 4-8, if he goes 1-7 in the SEC, I don't think he's coming back next year. I know what the buyout is, but if you're Mark Stoops, do you negotiate a buyout? Do you find a middle ground? I know you want every dollar, but you know what's worse than losing a couple dollars or even a couple $1 million? Coming back to a place that you are absolutely loathed and despised. And I'm not trying to say that's where we are now, but have another 3-9 year, have another 4-8 year. I guess 4-8, we have another 4-8 year. I think then the conversation becomes like, damn, we can't do this again in 2026. And so I think if Kentucky comes open, I think John Sumrall becomes the number one candidate. People would say, would he wait for a better job? Listen, there's only 16 SEC jobs. And I'm sorry, in this world we're going into, you want to be in either the Big Ten or the SEC. I think Kentucky would be, say, a better job than Virginia Tech, which is just open. And I think basically any job in the ACC outside of maybe a Florida State or Clemson or whatever, jobs that clearly aren't opening. So if the Kentucky job opens, he not only becomes the number one candidate, but I think he does become realistic. You know, I'll say this, couple other jobs that could potentially open. Florida, I don't know that they go group of five again. I really don't. You know, Billy Napier, there's a reason they call him Sunbelt Billy. And I would find it hard to believe that they would go G5 again. Again, Alabama, if they somehow open up, I don't know even how to process what that coaching job would look like, but I don't think Kalen DeBoer is getting fired this year. Arkansas, I think there are candidates that make more sense for Arkansas than John Sumrall. Maybe just maybe a Rhett Lashley, somebody like that. But I solely bring it up to very simply say Lane Kiffin gushing over John Sumrall. And I think he's right. I think if he wants to be an SEC head coach going forward, I think he will be. And I think it will be fascinating to see how it all unfolds in the coming days.